It's another hot one today. Really steamy. I wish I'd have gotten out a little earlier, but this will do. No need to delay any later. Let's go for some more bicycle psychotherapy, or talking to myself. Anyway, I think today we'll go up the Prairie Path to the north. That should be pretty shaded, and it's always a nice ride. Since the last ride, I've made some progress on the photo albums for the website. I'm ready to get my VPS set up and reverse tunnel port configured and get it live, but in the meantime I've been processing pictures. And I mentioned in a previous bike ride that I've had a bit of a crisis of motivation. And to summarize, I've spent a lot of years doing projects that I thought were cool and not being afraid to do things that are hard, and I get a lot of satisfaction from doing these things, and to be honest, the attention that I get from doing these things. But now whenever anyone does anything cool anymore, there's a lot of people who think that they just used AI, or if I want to do something cool, anyone could do it because they could use AI. So, not to take anything away from AI, it's cool. I've always been interested in AI since I was in high school. I never thought it would reach where it's reaching today in its capabilities, but it does make me question why I do the things I do. And how this relates to the photo albums is that I've been going through my photos from going all the way back to the late 90s, and my projects. And something that I noticed was that my projects used to be smaller, and there wasn't YouTube, and there wasn't Picasa, which is the photo sharing service on Google that I liked so much. I just did what I wanted to do, and they were little things, and none of them were thought to be products, and none of them were thought to be big projects or tools that I would use in the long term. That really started with my CNC machine in 2010, but and that was fun. And recently I've had a little bit of that with the making the bottle cutter one afternoon, and being interested in measuring the power of the laser at Workshop 88, so I made a bolometer. But it was kind of helpful in a way that I could maybe find a way to recalibrate my motivations, my definition of success, to not necessarily be entertaining other people, just doing the things that I want to do. Entertaining other people is kind of a nice side effect. I've had a few things picked up by Hackaday and Hackaday.com, and had a few projects like Star Castle 2600 that got a lot of attention, which was super cool. Yeah. So that's kind of where that is. I did have a big project recently I totally threw my heart into. It started, it's the Vortex candle stuff. If any of you know me, you know what I'm talking about. It started in the winter of 2024. Yeah. I noticed that some votives on the table were flickering, and right next to it there were votives The votives that were flickering were in cups, little votive holders that were cup shaped. And then right next to it was a Christmas pyramid, you know, one of those German propeller things where there's candles and above it kind of a propeller, and it turns, and those candles are out in the open, and those flames were still like a tapered candle or a birthday candle. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Why does one flame flicker and the other not? And it occurred to me that as the flame heats the air and the air rises and it draws fresh air in, the candle holder that was cup shaped forced the air coming in over the edge and down to the flame to mix with the air that was rising out of the cup, and that created turbulence, which causes the candle flame to flicker or be, you know, wiggle around, causing the flickering. And then the candles that were just out in the open air, like birthday candles or tapered candles, their airflow was laminar. It was smooth and did not cause the flame. So it made me wonder, well, if you could somehow control the direction of the air, could you get more interesting flame behavior? And specifically, I was wondering if you could make a candle twist up like into a vortex. And I started playing around with it. I made a 3D printed thing, and you couldn't. I couldn't. And I don't know if it's impossible. I don't think it's possible. But what I did find was that it was possible to direct the air into a chimney over the candle in such a way that the candle flame gyrated. It moves in a circle. And that was really interesting. And so I really wanted to know more about how that worked. Obviously, we directed the air in through vents, and it was the heated air was rising out of the top of the chimney. Why did this work? Why was what was happening? So I designed and 3D printed more of these things. Turns out I ended up printing a lot more and ran experiments and kept a spreadsheet, and I got up to 100 experiments. I did smoke and water vapor through the apparatus. I used a vacuum without a heat source. I did Schlerid photography, which allows you to film changes in air density. And I learned why it worked. And the really funny thing about this thing is that it the flame, there are vents that direct air along the sides inside a chimney over the candle, and the candle flame was moving toward the vents. The air blowing into the chimney was not blowing the flame around. Something else was going on. That was what was really interesting to me. Early on in this process, I thought, hey, this is so novel, it's so cute, there might be a product in this. So I did patent searches and didn't find anything other than those helical flame heaters and lights you see outside of restaurants these days, which is a different phenomenon because the flame is not entrained in the vortex that's created. It's actually displaced by it. And so I started moving to commercial prototypes, and this was great. I mean, I was coming through. Hello. Thanks, good morning.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyway, to the extent that I always thought there might be a commercial product in it. And when I'm 3D printing these shapes, they only last 15-20 seconds over an open flame, then they start to melt. So my experiments were all short. I needed to know if this phenomenon would last longer than let's see what we got here. If this phenomenon would last long enough to be a product, or if it would just stop working in 20 seconds when everything heated up or something. I didn't know. So I partnered with a glass blower, a really cool guy who worked out of a glass studio in Glen Ellen called, his name's Jay, and the glass, Jay Eddie Byrne, out of the local glass studio in Glen Ellen. And we made some prototypes. And during that process, I realized that the vents could be moved out of the glass, the chimney portion, which is difficult to manufacture, into the base. And iterated on that a little bit, greatly simplifying both the manufacture of the chimney and the manufacture of the base. And I started making bases out of ceramics and clay, and I slip cast some, and things were really moving along nicely. Let me get a little winded here. And but then, in preparation for talking to large consumer retailers, I did manage to find a patent that was a really good patent, and it described in a good amount of detail exactly what I had independently discovered. Although the patent does not accurately describe how it works. I really don't think they understood, or they had a false understanding of how it works. Nevertheless, that took the wind out of my sails. Now, this project to explore how this phenomenon worked with the candles and different commercially viable, consumer stylish versions of it, the manufacture of the glass chimney and the manufacture of the bases, that was wonderful. I could obsess on that and work on that day after day. And at one point I was designing the molds with taper for mold release and air holes for mold release, and let's see what this car is doing. Good. Anyways, designing the molds and making plaster molds for glass blowing, and making plaster molds for slip casting, and making 3D printed molds for pressing forms into clay. And I fired some of them in a kiln, and the results were great. It was fun. There was steady progress. And all of a sudden, one day, with the discovery of that patent, everything slowed down. And to be honest with you, from a business perspective, the device doesn't scale. It's good for a votive, a candle, but a candle power is a candle power. And a bigger candle is just the same flame in a different container. On your left.
Over.
And so there's, even though I still think there's a world of potential out there, it's limited to votives, candle holders, and those are limited in price, although the market's absolutely enormous. So I just let things cool down. I should probably reach out to the patent holders and see if there's any interest in selling the patent or licensing the technology. I should find out if there's already products that use these patents. It seemed like there would be, but then again, the items they described in the patent, in my opinion, I don't think they would work. I don't need to explain why, but I really think that the combustion gases would have eventually caused the flames to extinguish themselves. Nevertheless, that's not to say that they don't have a product that does work. It can work. And, you know, I don't want to try and sneak around them or do anything unethical. These people independently, and in 2012, discovered and protected the same thing I've recently discovered, which has just left me without a large, hyper obsessive project to occupy all my waking hours. So I've put everything away and pivoted to smaller projects. And getting my website up with the photo gallery of my old projects has reminded me that I didn't always do this stuff that I do for commercial gain or for commercial gain or for you know, to be an influencer, you know, for the attention. I did it because I was interested, which is really how this whole thing started, and I kind of blew it up. On your left. So yeah, I mean, the irony here is that it's the photo gallery project is another big project I've kind of thrown myself in, but it's an intermediate one. The next one's probably going to be Fly Buddy, which is a potentially commercial product. We shall see. And for that one, I am planning to leverage AI. I wrote the first version in Python myself, and it'd be a great project to validate, or, you know, to work on with AI. You know, because the scope is known and the hardware is known, I can really spec out the design without a lot of uncertainty. It's big and complicated, and there's a lot of tedious boilerplate stuff that needs to be sorted out. So yeah, I really started talking about motivation and scope. So I'd be curious to find out how you organize your projects or manage scope or define success. You know, if you see me doing something wrong, or hear me, or if you have an opinion, or if you have your own experiences to share, put them in the comments. And don't just talk to me, talk to each other. I don't care about the engagement. This channel is so small. But you know, feel free to use it for your own selfish communications. I don't care. Gotta get some more blood in my thumbs. Coming around on your left. Well, I gotta dismount my bike in my work zone. I really like these time-lapse videos, especially going on the prairie path here. I think these used to be rail lines. That's why they're so flat and easy. You know, the grade is so good. But I like the shade. I like the tunnel contrast. Everything's close so you can really see the motion. I don't know what they're doing up here. Good morning. I think some of these eventually are going to be ride and flies. I'll pack up a couple of drones, charge some batteries, and go to a park and mix the hyperdrive bike footage with some drone footage. Man, I got a friend. I like to race the little quads. They're called tiny whoops. Little things that fit in the palm of your hand. They're 65 inches, 65 millimeters on prop to prop diagonally, and they're fun. And there's a race called Race Gow. Gow stands for Game of Whoop. So Race Gow, and I do that. But they alternate every season with Race Gow, which is a racing season with the small tracks that'll fit in your garage or house. And if you follow my main YouTube channel, you've seen them in my racing. And alternately, they do something called iGow, which is tricks or flying stunts. And I think at this machine I'm just going to turn around. I don't need to go much further here. I'm going to spit out on County Farm Road, I think. Yeah, we're over 4 miles. This will be a good ride for me. Anyway, iGow, they have challenges every week to do one kind of trick or another. And this week, or a recent week, appears to have been doing a building dives, which, you know, I question that, because if you make that a challenge in a global competition, there's a lot of people who don't live nearby buildings that are more than 2 or 3 stories tall. And nothing against them, but that's hard to dive. And on the other hand, I live near Chicago and I've got some friends. I just saw a friend of mine, he dove, Willis Tower, the I want to say Standard Oil building, not that one, the Corn Cob building. I can't remember the name of those buildings. And so he was diving buildings in Chicago, and Chicago, I think, prohibits drone flying in general. On top of that, I believe that's in Class A airspace for O'Hare Airport. And on top of that, he's flying close to buildings, which technically within 400 feet of a vertical structure is okay. But on top of all that, the FIFA World Cup is going on, and I'm gonna get by this truck. The FIFA World Cup is going on, and there's TFRs all over the place. Do not fly. Notice to airmen, do not fly zones. And on top of that, a presidential library just opened up downtown. So I don't know. I think it's a hell of a risk, not only to do these things, but to put the films on YouTube. I mean, I think you're just asking for someone to discover them and then collect the evidence and give you a big fine if you're not prohibited from flying at all. And maybe that's just me being a scared guy, you know, chicken shit, but you know, in this world today, there's real consequences for some of the stuff you do, even if there's no harm to other people. It doesn't have to make sense for them to, you know, take away a right of yours today. Not that I think there's anything new about that. And I certainly don't want to get political ever on these bike rides, but what do you think about that? I don't know if any of you fly drones or have other hobbies like the ham radio guys. Their spectrum keeps getting cut up and given out to commercial interests. There was a period of time where they lost a whole bunch of bands. There wasn't much they could do about it. The FCC just decided to sell it to the cell phone companies or whatever. I don't know that it was necessarily the cell phone companies or exclusively. I know they were part of it. And I mean, cell phones are cool. I'm glad we could have them. But you know, they make laws. You know, up until a couple of years ago, you could fly your radio-controlled planes, helicopters, drones, anywhere you wanted to safely. Anywhere it wasn't locally prohibited. But they've turned that around now so that you can only fly in places that are pre-approved. They're called FRIAs. I've mentioned them before. Coming around on your left. And oh yeah, this is so nice, this path. And if you want to fly somewhere else, you've got to check and make sure that there aren't flight restrictions, which I agree that's a good framework to have. You really do want to keep amateurs out of the air when special events are going on. I mean, it's just a safety concern. There's people in these aircraft, you know. But as long as they don't use that as a tool to suppress the hobby or people's rights to harmlessly enjoy themselves. And now, if your drone is more than what is it? It's 850 grams, something like that, a couple pounds. 550? 500 grams. It's 500 grams. So it's a little over a pound. If your aircraft is over a pound and you're not flying in a FRIA, you need a remote ID, which is just a little $30 module with a GPS in it that tells anyone who's listening where the pilot is, where the aircraft is, who the pilot is. Again, you know, I don't see that as too different from license plates, but they're just kind of unilaterally implementing rule after rule, and it seems like they're rolling them out at a steady pace, making it very expensive for anyone to to appeal them, because you can't just appeal them once, it's one after another. Nevertheless, it's just kind of a thing that's going on in the remote controlled airplane hobby. I will say, it's nice to have I have a remote ID, and I like it because if I ever crash my plane, I can open an app on my phone and see where it is, or see where it last was. And that's a handy feature to have. More people should have that. I don't know why my regular drone GPSs take up to 15 minutes to find their satellites and sync up, but my remote ID seems to do it in a minute. But you know, I don't know. I probably buy the cheapest shit. For as much as I like the hobby, I really haven't been doing it much. I got every excuse in the world. Coming around on your left, plenty of room. real downgrade. It's nice. I thought it was a little pitched when I came up here. I was more winded. It's a good breeze, nice shade. So it's Friday afternoon. I've processed the last of what I think are the main old libraries of pictures for the website. So I have some technical updates to do to the login page, and I might try to recompile PyGallery 2 to remove some features I don't need. They kind of clutter things up. And like I said at the top of this bike ride, it's time to buy a domain, sign up for VSP, configure it and get it online, and hope I don't do something stupid. I don't think I'm doing anything stupid. At least nothing that can reach my home network. Thought it was kind of funny. I tried to use that old HP Pavilion as a server, in air quotes, and it doesn't have the VNC hardware in the CPU necessary to run Docker. So regardless if you know what that means, I just couldn't do it. So I installed it on a laptop that I was normally just using to play music in my garage, but it's on Wi-Fi. And I think that a happy side effect is anyone who's going to try and leech or download or fully copy my image library is going to have to do it over Wi-Fi, on top of whatever throttling I put on the Nginx server running in the cloud. So that's kind of funny. I mean, it's taken me a couple days just to get the data up there. I suppose I could have done it locally, you know, it is a USB drive, but I got a system in place for keeping it updated. On your left. Thanks. Coming around on your left, plenty of room. Earpods. I'm all for enjoying yourself, but just put those things on transparent. Not everyone's as nice as me. That might be a little quiet coming up to the bridge. As I recall, this is all just a little incline, a little sunny, and I want to take it easy. If I stroke out, you'll never know. I'll just stop uploading videos. It'd be the end. It's happened. Motorcycle accidents and heart attacks. Influencers just flash out of existence and none of their family members know how to let the audience know. Just left hanging. I had the forethought today to drink a glass of water and not just coffee before I left. And I put another one in the fridge. So I'm like a cartoon character with the thought of an ice cold glass of water in the refrigerator and a thought bubble over my head. Whew. Coming around on your left, plenty of room. I never know what to do about these repeated sections on the bike ride. I worry they'll get They'll get redundant for my viewers, my fans. And at this point, I don't even have anything new to say, so it's double sucky. The hyper bike and the slow ride offered nothing. Would have been a good day for sunscreen. I put the sticker on my handlebars to remind me, and then every time I'm out, I forget. I don't forget. Let's be honest with ourselves. I just don't like feeling sicky. I don't like rubbing sunscreen on, and I hope I don't live to regret that daily decision. Let's not fool ourselves. This is hardly daily. Yeah, Fly Buddy I originally wrote on a Raspberry Pi in Python, and it worked pretty well. A little bit of a lag in the speech synthesis, but I think you're going to have that on any platform, because it takes live data, converts it into something that can be said, and then says it at a rate that is understandable, which is just going to all be delays. So oh, no buttons, huh? Oh, there's one. But the real killer is the Raspberry Pi. It takes over a minute to boot, and even if I remove all the services that aren't needed and optimize the boot process, it's still going to take 30-40 seconds. But people just want to turn a thing on and use it. They don't want to wait a minute for it to start talking to you. It doesn't have a display either, so it's all verbal. And but porting it to ESP32, that's going to be nice. You know, standalone battery charger built in. You just hook it up to the USB to charge it. Wi-Fi from your phone to configure it, so you could configure it at the airfield. You could even change which plane you're listening to. Creates 3D path files. Coming around on your left. Plenty of room, plenty of room. Creates 3D path files so that you can view them in Google Earth, your flights, and it announces when it's, you know, when you're over the airfield, when you're clear to land. So overall, it's pretty cool. Porting it should be straightforward. ESP32 is a bit of a confined space, and using Bluetooth Low Energy, which is what the remote IDs broadcast, BLE, and using standard Bluetooth, which for wireless headphones, and using Wi-Fi, all at the same time, will make things a little tricky, but not impossible. It's been done, and you only really need the Wi-Fi to configure it. So, and yeah, oh, there's a little bunny. I mean, I think it's a great project to let people know how high they are, how fast they're going, where the plane is if they can't see it, if it's crashed. I mean, there's a GPS on it, so what the mode is, whether it's on the ground or in the air. I mean, you may not think of these things, but it's not uncommon for an airplane to crash into a tree, and you go looking for it, and it's not on the ground, it's 20 feet in the air, and the Fly Buddy can tell you the plane is motionless right here, 20 feet in the air. So Helps you know where to look to recover these expensive albatrosses. Albatros. Albatross. Ooh, taking risks. It's kind of a danger with these recorded bike rides is I consciously do not look behind me or to the left or to the right unless I absolutely have to, and I think I need to be a little better about that. Especially since the only person who I know watches these is my dad, and he fast forwards to the end anyway. And I don't blame him. And those are the time-lapse ones. I don't think anyone's listening to my ramblings. So, but I spent 25 years making video games. We're on everything from the Atari to the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, just about. Good games and bad games. And I've got friends who are still in it and still making pinball machines. And I left and started working for a company to make technology for making maps for autonomous vehicles, which was really fun. So, you know, if you want to hear me ramble about any of those things, ask in the comments. You know, those are the things I know I have opinions about. Like anything else I say, whether they're right or they're wrong, I've got opinions about them. Should have cut in the previous driveway. But anyway, or maybe you just want me to shut up and ride and enjoy a nice quiet bicycle ride, and all you could hear is my huffing and puffing. I don't think there's anything I can do about that. I'm looking forward to that glass of water and a nice cool shower. You know, before I left the house, the dog wanted to go outside. It's in the 80s. She's the sweetest little pit bull you ever met. But they say pit bulls are potatoes. You know, they just want to go out and lay in the heat. So gotta be sure to check on her the minute I get home. I'll come up the back way. Maybe I'll introduce you. Should be in about 3 minutes, I think, maybe 5. A little optimistic here. We're still a mile from home. I go 10 miles an hour. 6. 10 miles an hour average. Tail end of the trip on a hot day, uphill. Who am I fooling? 6. Maybe I'll catch the light. Sucked to get creamed by a Jeep with a dashboard loaded with dolls. whoever lives there keeps that house just beautiful. They have a very sweet dog too. Put that there. Ooh, I got rubber legs. I think that was just over 8 miles, maybe 8.5. Oh my God, it feels like I'm moving so slow. Come on. There we go. Jesus Christ. Hey, Nellie. How are you? How's Nellie? It's me. Hey, Nellie. Hi. Say, if you like this video, like, subscribe, and ring that bell. It's too damn hot, huh? All right, if you like this video, like, subscribe, and ring that bell. We'll see you next time. Oh man, my bike's in the front yard and my water's in the refrigerator downstairs. Bye.